I don't believe in leaving. I only believe in going. I don't ever see God calling people to leave, except leaving sin or leaving, but he always calls people to go. And I can't tell you how many times I wrote my resignation letter to the church that I was at because I was mad about something. That was actually a little therapeutic. But deciding that you're not going to leave until God tells you to go somewhere is a good idea. Because it means that you're not just leaving somewhere because you get upset about something. You only go when you have a call to go somewhere. I think that that's important. And again, I was never taught that in Bible college. It's just I got to the point where I realized if I left every time I got mad, then I wouldn't handle ministry the way most people handle marriage. I just get married until I didn't want to be married to that person anymore and get divorced and move on to somebody else. I think a lot of people handle ministry like that. And I think that if you really were called there in the first place, then you shouldn't go anywhere until God calls you somewhere else. So that's one thing. I think, some of it depends on which hard time you're talking about. Because I've recently gone through a very difficult season in my life personally, and it was associated not with the local church ministry, but with the ministry I'm part of now. And it had to do a lot with overcommitment combined with, so burnout actually is what the word a counselor decided to put on it. But that combined with a lot of unresolved grief just kind of led to a lengthy season of depression and anxiety for me. And in terms of that, being really disciplined about being a lot more still and a lot more quiet than what is natural for me has been very helpful. It's just required a rhythm of solitude and a rhythm of, people call it quiet time in the morning. I don't think it always has to be quiet, but I've needed quiet. I've needed to not try to do everything myself. And one of the downsides to being somebody who's super talented is it's not long before you realize you can do almost everything. And most people will let you, especially if you're decent at it. And that's the way to kill yourself. In fact, I'll add this. At one point, I was dealing with some chest pain. I went to my doctor, Dr. Patton, who is a Christian also, and he put this, I can't remember, 14-lead heart monitor on me and whatever, and checked out how everything was going. And bottom line is, after doing that, a bunch of blood tests and stress tests and all this kind of stuff, he just sat across from me one day in his office and he said, "There's nothing really wrong with you, but if you don't stop what you're doing, you're going to kill yourself." And so I stopped. For a little while. And then I started again. And that's why I got in the season that I've been in most recently. Okay, so we are all body, soul, and spirit. And they're all knit together inextricably. And when one part gets really screwed up, it screws up with the rest of it. And when I realized that something was going awry, I did all the things. So the first thing I did is I went to a doctor and I got a physical exam and I got a bunch of blood tests and I got x-rays and I got, the big thing was I got an MRI on my head. So I've actually been able to see my brain. There is actually something there. And so that was the first thing, is I did everything that I knew to address the physical thing, and finally came up, when I did some sort of vestibular testing, because I was experiencing, my head was off, balance, dizziness, all this kind of stuff. There was all these kind of weird physical symptoms and they couldn't figure out why. And a lot of the symptoms that I had, if you start looking them up on Google, you'll find out you're dying because you might be. So that was the first thing. The second thing was we're all spirit, and so I did everything I knew to do on a spiritual level. So I asked the people in my Sunday school class to anoint me with oil and to pray over me, and they did. And I sought healing prayer. I have teammates who do healing prayer, which I'm not even sure that all the things we do in healing prayer are, strictly speaking, biblical, but there's certainly nothing wrong with them. At least if you do them honoring God. And so I thought, sure, whatever, I'll do all the things. And then we're also we're souls. We have emotions, mental. So I went to a counselor, to a psychologist, psychiatrist. I I figured so I took a multi-pronged approach, because it got to the point where I was like, I cannot live like this. I have got to figure out how to get better. And I think it's a mistake just trying to tackle one of those three. Like, if there's something seriously amiss with you, like, figure out what's going on, because there may be some sort of underlying physical cause that you actually need to get addressed. And it may be that you need medication for some sort of mental condition you have going on. And there probably are spiritual causes. And for me, there was some repentance that needed to happen, because I realized that while I had repented of a sin from some time ago, I had sort of short-circuited my confession about some of that, because I wanted to make it seem like my sin wasn't quite as bad as it really was. And so I kind of got down to the bottom of the barrel, and I found a brother and just kind of barfed all the nasty stuff to get it out. Another thing I need to do is some forgiveness. It's interesting how many books and how many counselors and how many friends at one point or another identified. In fact, I was actually talking to one of the guys in our organization over lunch one day. He talked about the importance of forgiveness. He's like, is there anybody that you're holding a grudge or any resentment against? And the answer was absolutely. And I had to get to the point where I could forgive that person. And that was a journey for me that took a little bit of time. But it is unlikely, when something is seriously awry, that only one of those is amiss. It is likely that more than one, and probably all three, are somehow or another involved. If there's a massive dysfunction in the way that you're able to do your life, and I had to attack all three of them. And I think that I don't want to make it sound like I was successful, because I don't think that's an accurate picture. I'm doing everything that I can, and then kind of slavishly relying on God to do what I can't, because one of the things that I've learned in this season is that I cannot establish causation, correlation, and coincidence. People want to know, so was it helpful when you blah, blah, blah? I don't know, because I tried to do everything I knew to do, and some combination of all the things was helpful. Was it this, that, the other? I don't know. I just knew that I had to be as intentional as I could about pursuing health and wholeness, and as persistent as I could be, and that I had to be patient, because it took a lot longer than I hoped.